welcome to another edition of Lab Rats. That's Sean Carruthers.
That's Andy Walker.
And today on the show, we're going to show you how to buy a new computer, because you're probably thinking about that right now. Of course, there's a whole new generation of computers that have come out recently, multi-core processors. But one of the things we always kind of, see is these ads in back of magazines and newspapers and stuff.
Look at these tiny little printing here with all of these specs and whatnot. It's just like, I have no clue what's in there.
So what we're going to do today, I think you're going to start throwing things today, is we're going to look at sort of demystifying some of the specifications you might see on a computer ad or when you go to buy a computer. So
yeah,
that's the plan.
That is the plan.
How are you feeling today, Mr. Coffee?
I'm feeling pretty good, although, this coffee has a really wacky handle. I don't know whether you can see that out there in TV land, but, I guess Andy got this at some art school props department or something like that.
My mom likes to buy me arty, plates and things like that. So.
Sorry, Andy's mom. It's really tasty coffee.
Good to hear. All right, well, let's take a break, and when we come back, buying a computer demystified. Hey, easy. See? I told you.
This is Bongo. He likes bananas. This is a banana peel. It is a slippery hazard. This is Camtasia Studio 4. It is simple to use. Now answer our trivia question. What screen recording software does not swing from trees or make you slip? I'll be back at the end of the show with the answer.
So do you buy computers from back of magazines?
Nope.
No?
No.
Who do you buy your computers from?
Nobody.
Nobody.
I'm a bit different because
You kinda make 'em.
I make my computers when I build Windows machines. People think that I'm only a Mac guy, but I actually have a long history of building Windows machines. And I still build them and I still test them, and that's how I do it.
You're a recent convert to the Mac, though, aren't you? In the last 3 or 4 years or so.
Yeah, last couple of years, yeah.
Once Leo got his tongs on you.
Kind of. You know what? I've always appreciated the Mac, and when we just started doing this production here, that's when I really made the switch over to Mac full time, just because it's a bit easier for us to do our video production on that. But that's another story. But Windows machines, notebooks, desktops. I don't build my notebooks, but most of the desktops I build myself.
Yeah.
Most people out there aren't going to have that luxury to do that, so we're going to figure out how to actually look at one of these ads, look at the specs in here, and figure out what's going to be best suited for you.
Good. Well, let's get started, because there's a lot of computer ease to get through. When you get to this ad, because I think when people go out shopping, they're going to look at flyers, they might look online, they may go to Dell or to HP and have a look. Here we've got up the Office Depot website. And instantly you're confronted with a bunch of garble. So when you approach buying a computer, what do you look at first on these ads?
I think the thing that hits most people in the face squarely right off the bat, and the thing that you probably should pay attention to, is the processor. And which one you're actually going to want is going to depend largely on what you want to do with this machine. So when you're going into this process, you have to think, am I getting this new machine because I want just a newer machine to surf the web, do all of these internet-related tasks, or do I want to do something a little bit more demanding, like, say, photo editing or video editing or gaming, for example?
Right. So what is the task exactly that you're up to? On the high end, if you're doing video editing and gaming, you want a faster, newer processor. You can go with a sort of a slightly lower price machine if you're looking at internet, word processing, basic photo editing, things like that. So go in with a task in mind. What do I want to get out of this computer?
Right.
Now, the processor you're going to encounter off the bat is typically going to be one of two lines.
Yes.
So Intel's making now the Core 2 line. You'll see the Core 2 Duo. Right? And the Core 2 Duo is basically a multi-core processor, meaning it has two brains inside the package that can do two separate tasks at once. And I guess on the other side of you won't see this as much, but AMD has a line, I think they call the Athlon X2 now.
X2, Athlon 64 is out there. So yeah, there's definitely that continuing thing. I think there's a lot of manufacturers that are starting to pick up on AMD again at this point. The Core 2 is sort of ruling the roost, I think, in terms of a combination of performance, speed, heat generation inside the machines. But AMD, when they get into this situation, they always sort of get really aggressive in terms of pricing and bundling. So you'll see those. There's nothing particularly wrong with them. My personal preference goes towards the Core 2 at this point.
And yeah, me too. Now you will encounter a gigahertz speed. This is a clock speed, how fast the chip works. And once upon a time, that was sort of the rule of thumb. You know, the larger the gigahertz processor, or the larger the number, the faster the machine, and usually the more expensive it was. Not so anymore.
No, the bigger is better rule was sort of pushed off to the side a couple of years ago when they released the Pentium M into notebook processors. Now they were getting, you know, the same level of performance and dropping down the gigahertz rating by, you know, a gigahertz and a half in some cases, and it was still performing at that same level. With the Pentium 4, it was still sort of pushing up, but now that they've moved towards the Core 2s, the Core line, the original Core Duo and now the Core 2 Duo, they've actually gone back to that architecture for the Pentium M, so you're dropping the gigahertz down. So you'll see Core 2s, say at 1.6 gigahertz, that will way outperform the 1.6 gigahertz machines that you used to see before. Just because they're using a different architecture. So don't be fooled by the gigahertz rating. You can actually get one right now that's replacing a machine of 2 years ago that has a lower gigahertz rating that's actually going to way outperform that one.
So the Pentium 4, the Pentium D, they had like 3.2, 3.3, 3.4 gigahertz. Now you're looking at Core 2 Duo, it's 1.6, 1.8. I just bought one for 2.2 gigahertz. So inside of the line itself, so inside of the brand, so in the Core 2 line, of course, the higher the number, the faster the processor. And so that's worth comparing. When you're comparing between lines, so for the AMD Athlon processor, it's really difficult to make a judgment call between the two. You know, 2.2 is not necessarily slower than the 2800, which is, you know, they have 2800 or 2400 on the AMD line.
Yeah, if you really want to compare those two against each other, there are a few sites online that you can actually go and see the performance level of each of these processors against each other, so you can get a feel for what the rough equals are in terms of AMD and Intel. And there's Anandtech.com and there's Tom's Hardware, and both of them do processor testing on a regular basis.
Both very geeky sites. So if this is not, you know, something that, you know, if you don't consider yourself a geek, then you may, well, you go check it out, absolutely, but it's not easy to navigate.
You can learn a little bit from it, but
it's a bit intimidating.
If you don't, then don't worry about it.
Okay, moving on from the processor, I would say the next, my vote for what you would look at next would be the RAM, you know, RAM memory, random access memory in the machine. Is that something that you would look at too?
Yep.
Is that your vote?
Yeah, definitely. The RAM is one of the things that does affect your performance the most. But the good news is, even if you get a machine and you don't think about that, you can generally upgrade it after the fact.
Yeah, you can.
But might as well get it while you're getting the machine.
But some key questions to ask. First of all, how much RAM does this come with at the moment? You know, if you're buying a Windows Vista machine, you know, and even an XP machine, which may still be available, you're looking at a minimum of 1 gigabyte of RAM. You're probably going to be picking up a DDR2 type of RAM, which is sort of the fairly current top-end RAM in the marketplace today. 2 gigahertz, 2 giga.
See, this is why this is so confusing. You got the gigabytes, and you got the gigahertz and the megahertz.
2 gigabytes is where most people I would recommend would go. But you also want to ask, so how much does it have in it? And how much is it capable of fitting in it? Most machines these days have a maximum of 4 gigabytes because of the architecture of the machine itself. But you want to find out, if I decide to add memory to this later, if I want to, you know, increase the performance, which the best way to increase any performance of any machine is to add RAM later on in the life cycle, how much can I add? You know, is there 4 slots? Can I put 4 1 gig chips in, or 2 gig chips in, or something along those lines? So you need to ask that question. You may not be able to do that online or on the fly. You may want to go to the store and ask specifically.
Right, and if you're looking at these, sometimes it'll break down what kind of RAM you have going into that machine. And so it says 1 gigabyte, and it's like 2 times 512 megabytes.
Right.
And the reason they do that means that they're putting 2 512 megabyte sticks into 2 different slots. And that's actually fairly common these days because of dual channel memory. You get better performance by having 2 sticks of equal amounts rather than 1 stick with a gigantic amount, even if your machine can't handle that.
Right, absolutely. Good. Now, one of the ways you can, you know, if you're actually shopping for a machine, you can actually go to Crucial.com and look up the machine make and model, and it'll actually tell you how many slots and what the maximum capacity is. That's one way to actually do a little bit of research ahead of time before you actually buy that make or model from HP or Dell or somewhere along those lines. Okay, so we've done the CPU, we've done the RAM. What would be the next thing you would look at, Sean?
If you're planning to use the machine for gaming, I would think maybe the graphics card.
Yeah, the graphics card, especially in light of Windows Vista machines, the dominant is going to be the dominant operating system you're going to see these days, and it's very, very graphics hungry. So let's talk a bit about the GPU.
The GPU. Well, there's 3 kinds of ways you can go this. There's the built onto the motherboard,
Right.
so
Integrated
the integrated
graphics.
graphics.
Yeah.
And integrated graphics is nice and cheap. It's convenient because it's right there. You don't have to think about it too much. But generally, they're not really high-performing graphics components. So if you want to do some hardcore gaming on this, it's not going to happen unless you upgrade that card.
Yeah, the problem with integrated graphics is that the graphics card is actually on the motherboard, that main circuit board, but it shares. So the memory it uses to actually run through the graphics is actually sharing it's from RAM, whereas on what they call a discrete graphics processor or graphics card has its own graphics processing memory.
Yes.
Right. And so ideally what you really want is to buy either a separate ATI or Nvidia card, or a machine that has it separate, and you'll be asking how much VRAM, how much video RAM does this graphics card have on this machine? Windows Vista demands a minimum of 128 megabytes of RAM if you're going to video RAM if you're going to be running Home Premium, which is sort of the most common version of the thing for home.
I'd recommend going even higher than that for sure, because 128 right now is a little bit iffy.
It's a little bit light.
Yeah.
So I mean, ideally you want to go for 256 megabytes of video RAM.
Even 512.
And 512 if you can afford it. Now now you're starting to increase the price on a machine like that, unfortunately.
Yeah, so you've got, like I said, the 2 main manufacturers there, ATI and Nvidia. There's a couple others that are playing in this game that are not quite as well known, but at this point, ATI and Nvidia tend to seesaw in terms of performance and pricing level. So again, you can check in AMD Tech or Tom's for the latest, which is the biggest and the best, and what's good enough.
Right. So the question you ask the salesperson is, what's with the video processor on this machine? Is it integrated or is it separate? And if it's separate, how much video RAM? Those are the 2 questions you want to ask there. And then I guess you want to look at, finally, at least from a key question perspective, is the hard drive on this machine. How big is the hard drive? Now these days, of course, you're storing movies, you're storing a lot of music. You want a fairly large hard drive on any given computer. And they're making hard drives up to about half a terabyte today, 5.
Even bigger now. Yeah, you can actually get a single drive that's 1 terabyte.
I realize that, but when you buy a new machine, though, you're typically not going to get a configuration that'll say it comes with 1 terabyte of hard drive, right? Yeah, that would be nice, and I'm sure any day now that'll start to happen. Right now, though, if you're going to go and buy a hard drive or a computer from a store, the hard drive that comes in is going to be maybe 200, 250 gigabytes. You might see a 300 gigabyte drive on a pre-configured system, but not much higher than that.
Yeah, I just read an article by John C. Dvorak, /blog, where he talked about how 1 terabyte should be enough for anybody, ever. And of course, we all know how predictions like that go. At this point, I mean, you start downloading Lab Rats and you start downloading his Cranky Geeks, and pretty soon that drive is overflowing. So yeah, definitely you want to start thinking about higher capacity hard drives. So
if in doubt with hard drives, go higher.
Go higher.
If you can, if you can afford it.
I'd say that probably with this new video age, especially if you're going to start using this for downloading things from iTunes, the television and movie store there, then definitely go for half a terabyte. Go for the 500 gigabyte drive, or even more. Try upgrading to that 1 terabyte drive if you can afford it. If you know that you're going to be downloading a lot of stuff.
Right. Finally, I guess most computers these days that you're going to see at a store or in a flyer will come with a flat panel monitor. That comes down to personal taste. Most of them are going to come in various sizes. I don't think you can get anything under 20 inches these days. Actually, well, maybe, I don't know. What do you think? Let's have a look here. How big is actually, maybe the monitors aren't included.
Yeah, I guess it'll depend on where you buy it and how much they want to send you away happy with a full functional system. Now you've got, there's a couple of ways that you can buy these machines too. It's worth noting is that you can go to one of these all-in-one system solution things. So if you go online to Dell or to I guess Office Depot, they'll sell you this whole system custom configured. Or you could go to the mom and pop shop and specify every little thing about that computer, whether you want the monitor, whether you don't want the monitor. Tell them that you want that extra RAM. Tell them that you want that extra hard drive space on there, and just build your own from the ground up.
Right.
So,
would you recommend that?
If you're comfortable with doing that, sure. I mean, it's nice to be able to to just buy some or go in and just pick something off the shelf and say, I want that one. I mean, and that's one of the beauties of picking out a Macintosh. You don't have that much choice, just that one or that one. With PCs, when you're buying these systems, you do have a lot more choice, which is why this is such a problem.
Now, I want to fire a bunch of settings at you from this particular ad, and you tell me if it really matters in the grand scheme of things. Ready?
They all matter to somebody.
Okay.
But to the general viewer,
Okay, ready? 1 megabyte L2 cache.
no.
Okay. 800 megahertz frontside bus.
No. And I'll tell you why. Those two things right there are both part of the processor specs. So if you're getting the processor that you want on there, those will come as a standard thing. Now, the front side bus is the speed that it communicates inside the system. The higher one is typically better, but don't really worry about that too much.
Okay. We already talked about that. DVD drive.
DVD
Super
drive.
multi-DVD drive. Do we care about that?
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely.
I mean, they're cheap. You don't need to buy the new Blu-ray drives or the new HD DVD drives. Typically, buy one of the good combo drives that will burn CDs or DVDs, and you're fine.
What about the whole, what's it called? It's technology where you actually write stuff on the CD itself.
Yeah,
to
boring.
make a picture. I can't remember what it's called. We'll put it up right here.
What, the ones that burns it on the other side?
Yeah, what's it called? LightScribe.
LightScribe.
LightScribe. Do we care about LightScribe?
LightScribe is interesting, but
No. All right.
it doesn't beat a marker.
10100 base T Ethernet network interface. Do we care about that?
We do care about Ethernet because things are going faster inside the home. I would say look for something with Gigabit. It doesn't.
So this is the connector that you use to plug your high-speed modem or
Right.
your DSL modem into it, or your home network router. And then once upon a time, it ran at 10 megabit per second.
Yep.
Then they came to 100 megabit per second. You see the 10100 is the standard.
Yep.
But there is, as you said, there's a gigabit,
There's
right?
a Gigabit, and at this
Which is
point,
what? It's 1,000.
It's 1,000 megabits.
Right, per second.
So you want that nowadays because theoretically you're going to be setting up down the road like an Apple TV or some other media sharing device or a network attached storage drive to hold all your other stuff. Getting a Gigabit is pretty much essential at this point for making sure the data flows freely.
All right, only a few more here on this list. 56K V92 modem.
Are you dialing up your ISP? If so, get the modem.
I have an AOL account. Oh my God.
Yeah, so I mean, for rural viewers, yes, that's kind of important to make sure you have it, but
Really, in the end, you're not going to be using dial-up too often anymore.
nope.
6 USB 2.0 ports, 2 front, 4 back. Do we care about that?
Sure.
Yeah, we
The
do.
more USB ports, the better.
That's what you
But
plug
that's
your printer,
pretty
your
much
scanner,
standard, yeah.
things like that into.
It's hard to find a machine these days that only has 2.
Yeah, that's true. And then PS2 ports, 2 PS2 ports.
That's for the keyboard and mouse. If you're using a USB keyboard and mouse, you don't have to have those on there. I'd go back one really quickly to the USB ports. If you're planning to do digital video, get a FireWire port on there as well.
And sometimes that's shown off as IEEE 1392 port. Firewire is the brand that Apple uses. And finally, parallel port, serial RS-232 port. Old technology.
That's old tech. Most people don't need that. Most people don't need the parallel port either because those have been replaced for the most part by USB.
Right. Now you may encounter too a sound card. They may offer you integrated sound built on the motherboard, but that's fine most of the time. You may get a sound blaster or an Audigy from Creative, which is a discrete sound card. In the end, that's a personal choice.
Yeah, in the previous generations, it was actually fairly important because the integrated ones would only do one channel. It wouldn't do it particularly well. So you would go to something like Creative to get that multi-channel surround sound from your computer. So if you're going to be playing movies with that was a big deal. Now even those integrated ones will handle multi-channel fairly reasonably quality.
But is anybody going to watch a movie at their desk?
If you're not going to do it, don't even worry about it. But yeah, you have that ability with most integrated cards these days.
Now, one final thing before we go to break. Software. I always recommend that if they offer you Microsoft Office, for example, or some other products that are full versions, then it might be worth buying them when you buy the machine because they get what's called OEM software pricing, meaning that Microsoft Office, instead of being $900 or $800 or $700, is going to run you a couple $100 through Dell or Compaq or I should say HP, people like that. So that's worth buying if you do want a copy of Microsoft Office, or perhaps Symantec's. Well, I don't want to be recommending Symantec Norton because it's not a great piece of not a great security package. But if you're keen on it, you might get a better pricing directly from
Yes.
your computer manufacturer.
That's something that might be worth mentioning really quickly is you had asked earlier about the mom and pop shops versus these all-in-one systems from the major manufacturers. Sometimes when you get those major manufacturers' machines, you don't have the choice. You actually get all of this software on there that you don't really want that's just going to slow down the performance of your system.
Yeah.
When you go to the mom and pop shop, you have a little bit more control over what they're going to put on there.
Speaking of which, the other day I bought a Dell laptop, and I talked to the guy on the phone, and I said, "Can you just ship it without the Norton product on it?" He said, "I'm sorry, but the 30-day trial comes pre-installed, unfortunately. So when I get it, I'm going to uninstall it because I don't want it." But there's a lot of what I guess you could call crapware or marketingware.
Crunch.
There you go. All right, well, let's take a break and hear a message from our sponsor, and we'll be right back with final thoughts.
Earlier in the show, we asked you what screen recording software does not swing from trees or make you slip. Is it A, Bongo the Chimp, B, a banana peel, or C, Camtasia Studio 4? The answer is Camtasia Studio 4. Learn more at labrats.techsmith.com.
All right, to prevent the ding-dong email that we're going to get where, "Hey, Andy, it's the IEEE 1394, not 2. Yes.
What is
misspoke.
IEEE 1392?
I don't know. It's a grind of coffee, I think, or something. I'm not really sure. Anyway, so FireWire, the specification is IEEE 1394, and I was incorrect. Don't send mail, okay?
Actually, that was kind of funny because I used to make that similar mistake because we would go to a store where they had bulk bins and they had bin numbers, and one of them was 1394, and I was like, yes, I'm so geeky. I'm thinking, yes, this is the FireWire bin, and the one right next to it was 1392, and it was a similar kind of product. So I mean, it's easy to mix that stuff up when you're shopping for bulk food, I guess.
For chickpeas.
Yes.
All right.
So anyways, no email about that, unless you really want to tell us what's bin number 1394 in your local store.
All right. So, pictures of our
have
esteemed fans.
Pictures. Oh, we should
viewers?
really mention, because we may get another batch of emails from people who sort of were wondering about, do I buy the PC or do I buy the Mac? So, really quickly on
Buy a
that.
PC.
Well, okay. So, it depends really what you want to do. If you're going to be a gamer, buy the PC for sure. If you're going to be just doing work on it, on the internet, whatever, it doesn't really matter. So it'll be personal choice. So go see the Mac, go see the PCs, just see what you'd like to use.
Yeah, it's true. More and more people are buying Macs these days, which is great. I mean, there are decent machines, especially for the beginner. So you may want to consider it. Go play with them, have a look at them. I mean, these days, most programs that matter on the PC will actually open on the Mac as well. So it's not so much an issue anymore. And for the geekier people out there, you can run Windows on using a program called Parallels or Boot Camp on your Mac, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, so you with the Mac hardware, it's going to cost you more. That's one thing that's really important to mention. It's going to cost you more to do that, but you can run both Windows and Mac.
Right.
Although I'm going to recommend hold off on this maybe until October if you have the ability to, because when they release Tiger at that point, then you'll have the newest version of the operating system. And I don't think
Leopard.
Yeah, the really Leopard.
Leopard.
Yeah, no need to write in. Andy caught me on that one. If you buy it now, you'll have to pay for the upgrade in October. That's one of the things I don't like. At least Microsoft gave you the coupon to upgrade.
Upgrade, yeah.
All right.
So Leopard being the latest version of Mac OS.
Yes, indeed. And it looks like it might be fun. It could be a Vista-like disaster, but
Who knows? We'll see.
who knows?
All right. Pictures of our lovely viewers.
Yes. Well, this one, you probably recognize this gentleman.
It's Mr. Mike Britton,
This is
our webmaster.
Our webmaster. He's the one that
LabRats.tv.
posts every time we put an episode up. He's the one that coordinates everything and makes sure that you get it on time.
Yeah. Mike sent us in via our usual feedback at labrats.tv. I'm not sure why he didn't just say, "Hey guys, come on, show my picture."
Yeah, it was like, at first I was like, that guy looks awfully familiar. Wait, that's Mike. Not even acknowledging the fact that he's our webmaster.
I know. Oh well. Well, that's good. Thank you, Mike, for sending that in. To
So
feedback
Ted,
at
if you want to
labrats.tv.
send one as well.
Yeah, all the people, in the credits, would be happy to send it to us via feedback at labrats.tv.
In fact, we are not going to put any photographs from people that are not in our credits from now on. Okay, that policy just changed right now
right now,
because
okay.
this is the son of our viewer Jojo, who is
Yay.
in Manila in the Philippines, and
Oh.
apparently right now he is Googling lab rats on his
Clearly.
notebook.
On his, what does it say? Something laptop performer.
Multi-laptop performer.
Fun.
So thank you for sending that.
He's looking at the low-res version of LabRats.
He's looking at the low res, yes. So there we go.
All right. Well, thank you, Jojo, for sending that in.
Mm-hmm.
And
Keep
that-
sending in photographs, of course. Feedback at
sending.
labrats.tv.
absolutely. Don't forget to check out our forums at cyberwalker.com/forums.
You need some more coffee.
I do. Thank you for downloading this. Thank you for downloading this week. My name is Andy Walker.
I'm mortified. And we'll see you next week.
That's Sean Carruthers. See ya.
Are you ready?